Hey guys, AT230 here. Today we're gonna have this 2021 Ford Mustang. We're gonna be installing the Steeda Lowering springs. Should give it about an inch to an inch and a half height difference. We're also gonna be putting in some new bump stops, and we're gonna see how it's gonna look. We're going to go ahead and measure the height from the fender lip to the floor, so we can verify the drop after we install the lowering spring. And now we got about 730 millimeters. Alright, so the front side we're looking at 723 millimeters. It's a little bit lower in the front than the rear. So in order to remove this spring from back here inside this lower control arm, we are going to remove the whole rear subframe. That way it makes it a little bit easier. Instead of trying to take apart all of this piece, we're going to go ahead and lower it from here and pull it away from the body. Alright, so we went ahead and loosened up the two bolts that hold this little bracket in. That way it doesn't fall completely. We supported the rear subframe and then removed the rear two bolts and the front two bolts for this frame. That way it gives us enough space to push down on the hub assembly to get those springs out. Alright, so now that we got the stock spring out, we're going to go ahead and put the new spring in. Want to be careful with the brake lines and sensors and other things like that when you're installing it. Don't want to get caught up and yank on anything. Squeeze this right down into here. Get that up. Alright, so in order to remove the bump stops and replace them with the new ones, you got to get these little washers off out of your way. Slide out the new one, the old one, and put in the new one. And then we're going to put these. Alright, now that we got the bump stop swapped out on the rear shocks and we also put in the new lowering springs, we're going to go ahead and support this back up so we can put the brackets back in, put the four main bolts back, and then move on to the front. Alright, so we went ahead and removed the two bolts for the brake. We went ahead and also took off the rotor so we can access the two bolts at the bottom of the shock. Once you loosen these up, you do want to have to hit it and hammer it out to get the bolt on the other side to push through. So after removing the stock spring off the front shock, we are now going to change to a shorter bump stop for the front and then put on our shorter spring, put it back on the machine, tighten the head back up, and it'll be ready to go back on the front. Now that we have the front and rear springs installed and the bump stops, we're going to go ahead, put all the wheels back on, take our height measurement, see how much it actually lowered the car, then take it for a test drive, make sure there's no weird noises, everything feels nice and good, and be ready to go home. ride quality feels a little stiffer. Does give it a nice feel though from the factory ride. So we're all finished. We took it for the test drive. Everything rides fine, sounds good. We got about 1.5 inches lower in the front and 1 inch in the rear. Once he puts on his wheels, it's gonna be a clean look and she's ready to go.